नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter number 11, Verse number 25. This is continuation of Lord Ram's pastimes, and after Sukadeva Goswami has explained how Lord Ramachandra closed his Leela and everybody left with him, then King asked a question, and the question was that how did he deal with his brothers, how he lived his own life, and how the residents of Ayodhya treated him or looked towards him. So now Sukadeva Goswami, he is replying to that. Athadishat digvijaye bhratrinstribhuneshwaraha atmanam darshayan swanam purim akshata sanugaha. Lord Ramachandra, he ordered his brothers to go on Digvijaya, means conquering all directions. He who is Tribhuvaneshwara, that who is the ruler of the three worlds, and he is ordering his three brothers to go and conquer. But he himself remained in Ayodhya, Atmanam Darshayan Swanam, showing himself, giving his darshan to the residents of his own city, Akshata Sanugaha, along with his followers, he looked after the kingdom. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti, he comments, Bhratrin Digvajaye Adishaditi Bhratrinam Taddarshanam Rupam Swasukhamapi Parihaya Tadagya Palan Rupa Tasmin Anuvritti Rukta. So what is the point in describing this? That he ordered his brothers to go and conquer. So this can be seen in many different ways. The way Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur sees is quite unique. So generally the tendency is that if you have somebody whom you love, then you want to be with that person. You don't want to leave that person and go somewhere else. And you make all efforts, all endeavors, plans to be with that person. So here it is showing that how, although the brothers, they very much wanted to be with the Lord Ram. As we know from the history or his earlier story, that Lakshman even went with him to the forest, and Bharat was not there, and he also wanted to go, but he was sent back. So these three brothers, they did not want to be separated from Ram. They loved him so much and they were so much devoted to him that they did not want to leave him at all. So yet, if this is his order that they should go, then they followed that. So this says that Bhratrin Digvijaye Adishad, that he ordered them to go on conquering the different kingdoms. So Bhratrinam Taddarshan Rupam Swasukhamapi Parihaya. So giving up their own pleasure of seeing him, they followed his order. Tadagya palan rupa tasmin anuvritti rukta. So this is to show how much they were obedient to him. Generally, it is easy to do something which you like to do, right? So it is said we do service which is suitable to our nature. So that is good. Obviously, if something is suitable to your nature and you work accordingly, then it is easy for you. There is no stress involved, no anxiety. But then you do not know whether you are doing it as an act of devotion or just because this is what you like to do. Which means that it is not really known then that you are actually surrendered or you are just following your mind. So surrender is known only when you do what you are asked to do regardless of whether you like it or you don't like it. If you like to do it, then you do it, then of course there's no problem. But when you don't like it and there is something else which you like, but you have to do something different than what you like, and you do it happily, so that is what he says is the anuvritti. So this is what is shown here, he says. That is his understanding of this verse. You can also take that he was very curious to have his kingdom expanded. Right? Somebody would see it like that. Because that's general tendency that kings, they want to expand their kingdom. So why he did not comment like that and he's commenting so differently? Because the verse itself says he is Tribhuvaneshwara. So where can he expand? He is called here as the Lord of Tribhuvana, means lower, middle and higher planetary systems. He is the Lord of all three worlds. So where will he expand? So then certainly that is not his interest, but he wants to show something else to people. And that is what is called true love, true devotion, and true surrender. So that's why Vishwanath Chakravarti comments like this. Otherwise it looks, where is it said here? And there doesn't seem to be any statement. This verse and how he comments don't seem to make any connection. So connection is that if he is Tribhuvaneshwara, why he sent them to go and conquer? So he says, Tadagya palan rupa tasmin anuvritti rukta. That Shukdev Goswami is describing the surrender, obedience of his brothers to him, to Sri Ram. And another reason why he sent them is, he says, Ramasyapi teshu snehat taddesadhikar dan rupa vritti rukta. Rama was also thinking that, okay, I have become the king of Ayodhya, but my brothers, they also deserve kingdom. So if they stay here, they will just remain like princes, but they will not be the rulers. So therefore he sent them that you go and you conquer. So that's why we know that Shatrughan came here in Mathura and he established this city of Mathura. And Bharata went to Afghanistan. That's where he established Takshashila, which is in Pakistan now. So that's where he ruled. So this is his sneha, this is his affection for them, that they should also be kings. He also wanted to see them as kings. And swanam swaprajaha paurascha prajashu paureshu cha swadarshan kripavalokadi danrupa tasya vrittirukta. And he, because there were 3 questions asked, how did the brothers behave towards him, how did he behave towards them. So brothers were obedient and he was also concerned for them. And how did the people behave towards him and his behavior towards them. So that is described that Atmanam Darshyan Swanam Purim Akshata Sanuga. So he was available to the citizens of his city by giving his darshan. So therefore this is his grace, that he was always available for them, to take care of them. He was not hiding or just enjoying. So many times in the olden days kings were doing that. They will have some place where they would go. So when Mughals were ruling at Delhi, then they will come to Agra for vacation. Agra was their vacation place. That's why there is a red fort here also. If you go from here to Delhi, just after maybe 5-6 kilometers on the highway, there is a village called Akbarpur. So Akbar was one of the Mughal emperor. So that village is on the name of Akbar. And after that, if you go, there is a Chhata. So these were all the camping places. When they moved from there, they will come with horses and food and everything. It took few days to go from Delhi to Agra. So this area, they say that was very slippery in the rain. If it rained, and the horses will slip. So they had made places where to relax and take care. So Akbarpur was one place, Chhata was another place. That's why it got the name. Just like Chatikara is also a place where Krishna camped when he moved from Gokul to Nandagaon. So Chatikara was his camping place. That's why it's called Chatikara. It comes from the word shakat, which means bullock cart, because they were moving with bullock carts. So they camped here with all their bullock carts. So it became known as Shatakara. Chatikara now. So Purim Akshata Swayam Katham Avartata, and how did he behave himself? So this is described as Purim Akshata, that he looked after the kingdom. Atastasya Ikshaniyam Purim Varnayati Ashikta Ityadi. So then in the next 3 verses, he describes the city of Ayodhya, because it is said that he looked after his kingdom. So then the kingdom is defined. What kind of kingdom was this? How was it? So you can get an idea. In the olden days there was no machinery as you have now. So everything was natural. So if you have to sprinkle, if you have to sprinkle the roads these days, like they're sanitizing the roads. So you have seen these big trucks with some chemical inside, and they have the hose pipe and they're spraying. So in the olden days, if they have to sprinkle, of course there was no chemical, they will sprinkle some nice fragrance things. How would they do it? They had a very novel way. Elephants. So elephant, if you have seen, he can suck water in his trunk and then he throws it out. So this is what is being described. He says, Ashikta marga gandhodai karinam madashikaraihi swaminam praptamalokya mattam va sutramiva. Says that the city was sprinkled, Ashikta marga, the paths on the city, they were Ashikta, they were like drenched or showered. This Ashikta is same root which we have Abhisheka, same Sichu Dhatu, Sichu Sechane. So Ashikta means showered. So the paths were showered by Gandhodai, with fragrant water. So you have various types of essential oils. So you mix it in water and sprinkle it. Natural. And Karinam Madashikarai. And also the elephants, when they are in their youth, they ooze out some kind of liquid from their temples. And that also is very fragrant. The bees go mad after that, which is actually quite troublesome for the elephants. So much that sometimes to get a respite from the breeze, they go inside the lake, put their head in the water. So Karinam Madashikarai. So here says a Kari means elephant because the trunk is called Karim. It's one of his hand, right? The trunk of the elephant works like an arm for him. He can pick up things with it, put it in his mouth. It's like you use your hand to put food in your mouth, he also uses that. It's very special. And the city, it appeared as if she has become intoxicated. Because this Madashikara, these droplets which are coming out from the temple of the elephant, they are very intoxicating. When elephant has that, then he is in his full power. Youth. So it appeared as if the city was intoxicated by this spirituous liquor coming out from the temples of the elephants. And Swaminam Prapta Alokya. Why is that she appeared intoxicated? As if she is so happy to see her master, Sri Ram. Because Ram will go in the city, so the whole city appeared as if she is intoxicated with happiness by seeing him. Swaminam praptam alokya mattamba sutram eva. Sutram means completely, highly intoxicated. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti says, Tasya ikshaniyam purim varnayati iti ashikta ityadi. That he is giving a description of the city. Sutram mattam iva samriddham. So what does it mean intoxicated? He says it indicates at the wealth the prosperity of the city. Means the city was so prosperous that it appeared as if she is intoxicated. And va iti vitarke vasitam gam va iti pathe. So there is a difference in reading. Somewhere it is vasitam gam va. There is a reading like this instead of mattam va. So then it can mean, vasitam can mean a cow which is in heat, and ga is cow. Vasitam gam means cow in heat. Samasanta bhava arsha. Prasad, then he further describes Prasad Gopura Sabha Chaitya Deva Grihadishu Vinyasta Hem Kalashaihi Pataka Bhischa Manditam. So how was the city? It says it was decorated very nicely. On the top of the palaces, on the gopuras, the big gates, Sabha, the assembly houses, Chaitya, places for doing yagya, Devagrihadisu, and the temple, Devagriha is temple. So on top there were big decorated golden kalashas, which you see many times on top of the temple, round kalashas. So they were golden on the houses, on the assembly houses, on the gopurams. So this shows the opulence of the city. And pataka bhischa manditam, and it was decorated with various types of flags, colorful flags. So generally temples have flag. Seen Jagannath Puri has a huge flag which they change every day. Recently it caught fire. Just about 2 weeks ago, so they said this has never happened. This is a very inauspicious shrine. I saw the video, the flag was burning. So like that, the houses, temples, palaces, they were all decorated with beautiful golden pots and flags and festoons. Then Pugai Savrintai Rambhabhi Pattikabhi Suvasasam Adarshair Shukai Shragbhi Krita Kautukatoranam. And these are all auspicious items which are described, which were used in the past to decorate. So he says Pugai Savrintai. So Puga is this supari, what you call betel nut. So along with the stem, take. So betel nut is considered also auspicious. That's why it is also offered to the Lord. And Rambha means this banana plant. So decorating houses with banana plants. And Pattikabhi are the festoons, Vasasam, beautiful cloths on this decoration. Adarshai, also mirrors. So that means mirrors also existed before. And Shukai, parrots, are also parrots. And Shragbhi is garlands, Krita Kautuka Toranam. And then there were Toranas, this Vandanvars, where you take leaves, you tie them together, and then you tie them in front of the house, especially with mango leaves. So different types. It's like these days if you go to temples, of course now it's not allowed, but they have this full bangla, what they call as the flower. They decorate so nicely in summertime every day. New design. They spend a lot of time and money and very fragrant flowers. So this is what he is talking about, that the whole city was decorated like that. Then tamupayus tatra paura arhana panaya ashisho yujurdeva pahimam pratvayodhritam. So wherever Bhagwan Ramchandra went, then people came there to see him, and they will bring different gifts for him. Tamupayus tatra, wherever he went. Paura means citizens. Arhana panaya, so carrying some articles to worship him, some gifts to give him. They received him like that. And Ashisho yayujur deva pahi imam prak tvayodhritam. They said, please, he gave blessings to them and they prayed to him that, O Deva, O Lord, O Master, please protect this earth which was uplifted by you in the past. So your phone is all the time breaking. Why is that? At least this connection seems fine, but this one is going off regularly. So earlier earth was uplifted by Varahadev. So the people there praying to Bhagwan Ram that you protect, because you are the one who uplifted the earth from the waters where it was thrown down by Hiranyaksha. That's why we have so much water all around earth. Previously it was fully submerged, right? That's what science says, that originally there was only water, then came earth. Sankhya also says this, that earth comes from water, right? So what comes, that original is more than what comes out of it. Water is more than earth. And air is more than water. So there is commentary. Paranam tasmin anuvritti mahatamiti. So then it describes the behavior of the citizens of Ayodhya towards him in this verse, because that was one of the questions. So Imam Prithvim Praka Varaha Rupene. This earth was uplifted earlier by Bhagwan Ram in the form of Varaha. Then Tatah Prajaviksh Patim Chiragatam Didrikshayot Srishta Griha Striyo Naraha Aruye Harmanya Ravindalochanam Matripta Netra Kusmaira Vikiran. So what did the people and ladies do? Then it is described here in this verse. that when he was going, because kings used to move in their kingdom as Shobhayatra or pleasure drive in the chariot or on the elephant. So tatah praja viksha patim chiragatam. So after seeing Ramchandra after a long time, because he returned from the forest, then didrikshayo srishta griha striyo nara. The men and women, they dropped all their works because they were eager to see him. So they went on the top of the roof. Arhi harmyani arvinda lochanam atripta netra. So they saw Bhagwan Ram who has lotus eyes. How did they see? Atripta netra. Their eyes were not satisfied by seeing him. Means they did not feel satiated. They wanted to see him more and more. And kusmair avakiran. They were showering flowers on him when he passed by close to their house. So they will throw flowers at him. So prajanam tasmin vritti mahatata iti. The behavior of people towards him is described in this verse also, as in the previous verse. So previous verse and this verse, the distinction he makes is that previous ones were just the people of the city, and these are people of the whole kingdom. Because in the city he lives there, but once in a while he will also go to the nearby towns and villages. So these people do not get to see him as much as the people of the Ayodhya get to see him. So therefore they will be so happy, and they looked at him with unfulfilled eyes and dropping flowers at him to welcome him. Chiragatamiti vanvasad agaman samaya bhava darshanam idam geyam. So he says that Chiragatam, who has come back after a long time, says from this we understand that this is a description when Bhagavan Ram returned from the exile after 14 years. So they were so eager to see him. Atha pravishta swagriham justam svai purvarajabhi anantakhilasho koshadhyam anarghya rupalichadam. So he says that atha pravishta swagriham justai svai purvarajabhi. So then he enters into his own house, and which was being served by the earlier royal people, Purvarajabhi. Ananta Akhila Koshadhyam. The treasury was full of wealth, which could not be finished. Ananta Anarghya Anarghyoru Parichadam. So there were very expensive items, gems, ornaments, and cloths. All this was in his treasury. So he must have inspected that. Then Vidrumodumbara Dwarai Vaidurya Stambha Panktibhi Sthalair Markatai Swachchair Bhata Spatika Bhittibhi. So it is further described his palace, how it was. So it says Delhi Vidruma Udumbara Dwarai. The entrance was made from Vidruma. Vidruma is coral. So and Udumbra is the threshold. So threshold was made from that. Dwarai Vaidurya Stambha Pankti bhi. And then there is an entrance, and then there was a whole row made of Vaidurya gem. So what is called Vaidurya in English? Lapis lazuli, that's what they call it. And Sthalair Markatai. Markata is, what is this? The green? Emerald. So there were emerald, the floor was made from the emerald. And Swachhair Bhatas Patika Bhitti bhi. And the walls, they were made from shining and very clean spatik. So this is the description of the. So there was no need of painting or anything. Right? So there was no problem that the paint is falling down or somebody scratches it, because you cannot put scratch here. And it's easy to clean. You can wash it, you can wipe it, you can do whatever you want to do. So Chitra Shragabhi Pattikabhir Vasho Mani Ganansukaihi Mukta Phalaischidulasaihi Kanta Kvamopapatibhi. So further there is a description, many things are described. There are colorful garlands and again patakas, these festoons. There are manis, gems and moti. What is moti called? Pearls. One is white one. But these pearls is as a chid vilas. Chid vilas, they are like conscious. Mukta phalais chid vilasai kanta kamopabadhivi. And they were very beautiful objects for enjoyment, fragrant items. Dhupa deepai surabhibhir manditai pushpamandanai stripumbhi surasankasai justam bhushana bhushanaihi. They are beautiful dhupa. Dhupa is incense. Deepa, the lamps. And surabhir manditam pushpamandanai, very fragrant flowers which were decorating the whole place. And there were wonderful men and women who appeared like devas, and they were so beautiful that they seemed to decorate the ornaments which they were wearing. Bhushana Bhushanai. So this seems like a happy ending finally. So here it says, Vidrum maya budumbra dehalyo yeshu tvai dvare trityantanam manditam iti trityananvai. Just describing this coral threshold. Vasasam manigananam chansukai chit shakti rullasair vilasai chinmayriti. So it says that the cloths, they were all studded with gems and everything was transcendental there. Chit Shakti Vilasai, it was not material. So it said Chit Shakti Ullasai Vilasai Chinmay, everything was conscious. Sarvesham Visheshnam Idam. So he says that the Chidullasai has to be applied with everything. All the pearls, gems, everything is Chit, made of Chit potency on Bhagavan. Puriyam idam Puriyam aprakritatvat. Why is that? He says because in this city everything was aprakrita. Everything was non-material, transcendental. There was nothing material there. So we also have to consider these things when we analyze Lord Ramachandra's behavior. That he is not a material person. Kanta Kamaniya, the word Kanta means beautiful. Bhoganam Uppatti Siddhi. So there are very beautiful objects of enjoyment. People like to go to heaven. You can think of going to Ayodhya also. Better than heaven. Yatastair iti api sarvesham visheshanam. So he says this also is to be applied with everything. So this adjective of Kanta Kamo Upapatti Bhi, it should be applied with everything. Means everything was beautiful, wonderful, high class in that palace. Tasmin sa Bhagavan Rame Snigdhya Priya Ishtaya Reme Swarama Dhiranam Rishabha Siti Akila. So in that city, Bhagavan Ram, he lived along with his wife Sita Devi, who was very dear to him and who was full of love for him. And he is described here as Swaram Dhiranam Rishabha. That he is the supreme person who is fully absorbed in his own pleasure and who has full control over his senses and mind. So that means he is not dependent on any external pleasure, and if he is taking pleasure in outside things, they are all expansions of his own energy. So that is the meaning of Swarama. Swarama is same like you say the word Atmarama. So Swasmin Eva Ramati iti Swarama. So he is self-dependent or independent of everything else, meaning that he is fulfilled in himself. He is not in need of anything. He is completely satisfied, and therefore he is Dhi Ranam Rishabha. Therefore he is the best of people who have control over mind and senses, because our mind and senses are not controlled when we are lacking something inside. If I am fulfilled inside, then my senses are satisfied, then they are not disturbing me. They are not running after sense objects. So therefore he is called Swaram Dhiranam Risabha. And when he says that Reme Sita Yakila, that he enjoyed with Sita, Sita is his own pleasure potency. And although externally he was separated from her, but internally he is never separated, because it is his Swarup Shakti, his Antaranga Shakti. So therefore there is no question of separation between them. And she has Snigdha, or she is full of love and affection for him. Snigdhaya Priyaya Ishtaya. Bhujaya Sayatha Kaman Dharmam Mapidayan Varshapugan Bahunrinam Abhidhyatangri Pallavaha. So in this way he relished for many, many years, for long period of time. But he enjoyed without transgressing dharma. See the important thing. So at present people like to enjoy, but they do not enjoy within the bounds of dharma. If they have to choose between dharma and enjoyment, they go for enjoyment. So here he says that dharmam apidayan, without transgressing the principles of dharma. So that enjoyment which does not transgress dharma, that enjoyment is also dharma. Otherwise enjoyment becomes the source of bondage, trouble. So therefore Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamo asmi bharatarshava. He even goes up to the extent that kama, that enjoyment is me, myself, which is dharma aviruddha, which is not against the principles of dharma. So this is the distinction between modern society and this, what is being described here. That in this description, everything is within the bound of dharma. You have loving relationship, you have kingdom, you do your business, you make money. So there is no restriction on enjoyment here. It is not that these people are living like 1 cup of buttermilk or something like that. No, there is the description of all types of objects of enjoyment. That's what he said, that there were kanta kamopattivi. That kama means object of enjoyment and kanta means relishable or which is pleasing. So they had that, but within the bound of dharma. So dharmam apidayan, this is very important statement. And this way he lived varshapugan bahun, for long time he realized there. Otherwise, if you do not follow dharma and you enjoy, then after some time you are sick. Your body gives up, your senses, they become weak, or you develop some other trouble. So nirnam abhidhyatangri pallava. And his feet were being meditated upon by human beings at that time, which means that they were all devoted to him. They were not trying to create a revolution against him. Nobody planned a coup against him. That what is this? He is just enjoying and not taking care of us. So Nirnam Abhidhyat Angri Pallava means that everybody was satisfied with him, and therefore they meditated on him. They thought of, means they were surrendered to him. They would happily like to serve him. There was no feeling that they are getting exploited or he is taxing us too much. This is one of the big trouble at present, that government keeps on taxing people. Whenever they need money, then increase the tax. So they did not feel like that. In Bhagavatam 12th canto it is described that ultimately a situation will come when people will leave the cities and go and live in the forest because they cannot pay taxes. Karpidita. Karpidita means troubled by the taxes. So more money you make, more tax you pay. So then person thinks, I work so hard and then all I do is I'm paying taxes. So Bubhuja Yatha Kalam, another important is that the enjoyment was according to what is appropriate to the time. Not that you are having your breakfast at 11 o'clock. So you have breakfast at the time of breakfast and lunch at the time of lunch. So that is called yatha kalam, as per the time and as per dharma. So this is the way to live happy, long, hassle-free life. So this is the meaning of dharma, that if you maintain dharma, then dharma maintains you. If you destroy dharma, then dharma destroys you. It just reacts according to what you do. So this is the end of this chapter number 11, and this is the end of description of Lord Ram's pastime. It is Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramhansyam Samhitayam Navam Skande Sri Ramopakhyan Ekadasodhyaya. And I think there is no more commentary on this. So it's also the end of commentary. If there is any question on this? Yes.
Just in the last verse, is Bhuboje Chaitakalam? Does it only refer to eating?
No, Bhuboja does not mean eating. Means any activity.
Okay. So it also means that
Yeah, all other
he
activities.
was in this type of age, for example, and therefore he enjoyed the activities that are appropriate at this age and not
Right.
child's play or...
Yes. Anything else?
Babaji, Haribol, this is Padadasi.
Yes.
In this chapter, it is described how the citizens loved Lord Ramachandra and they worshipped him and were very devoted to him. But then a few lessons ago, we learned how Lord Ramachandra listened to a washerman criticize Srimati Sita Devi. And so it seems to me a little contradictory because this washerman was also a citizen of the reign. So why is it that Lord Ramachandra gave so much importance to what he was saying about Sita Devi instead of thinking that maybe it's an impiety of the washerman or his condition as a Sudra or something like that?
Because if you get one virus in your body, coronavirus, then you have trillions of cells in your body, but then one virus will multiply very fast and then start eating up all other cells, because it will jump onto the cells and use them to multiply. So if you get some virus in your body, some bacteria, then what does body do? It does not say, oh, it is only one or two and we are in trillions, it's all right. No, they try to immediately fight and destroy it. Otherwise, they will increase. So there may be one person and you may neglect, but then that one person will make more. He will talk to another person, and then it can become a big opposition. So therefore he took care of that before situation goes out of control.
Did he break his dharma as a husband?
Break his dharma for?
As a husband when he sent her away.
So what is the dharma of the husband? Now he is husband of his wife and he is also husband of the kingdom. Okay? So there, you understand? He is the husband of his wife and also husband of his kingdom, which has millions of people in it. So when you have two things and you have to choose between them, then you have to say which one is beneficial. So therefore he took care of the kingdom and instead of just taking care of his wife. So for two reasons. One is that if he does not do that, then people will think that he is just like any other person attached to his wife, doesn't care for us. Second, he knows his wife very well and his wife also loves him. So he knows that it is not going to make any difference to his wife whether she is living here or she lives there. So that's why his wife does not complain. So that is their mutual understanding, which is difficult to imagine now that some people can have such understanding. There is oneness of heart. So there is so much of unity of heart that Sita understood what Ram wants and she did that. Bola Sandeep.
Babaji Maharaj, the example you gave that if one virus enters the body, it can multiply. So can we not put a Purva Paksha like this that like if some body part is diseased, then we amputate that part. And from the other description, we see that the whole citizens of Ayodhya were in love with Ram. They were all so very dedicated to him. And there was just one eyesore of this washerman. So it is better to amputate this guy and...
Yeah, so that is the modern medicine. So modern medicine likes to do surgery, and Ayurveda says that if you can protect a part without doing surgery, then that is a better solution. So therefore that's what he did. He protected the washerman also. Because you can imagine, when Lord Ramachandra took that decision, you think washerman was still acting as some kind of poisonous part of the body? No, he was not. So that's Ayurvedic treatment. So that is the difference between Parshuram and Ram. There was also Parshuram at the same time when Rama was there. But Parshuram was doing surgery. He had his knife with him. That's what the Parshu means. And he was going around and chopping all the sick kings. In fact, he was doing so much surgery that even those who were not sick, he killed them also. I mean, it was only Kartavirya Arjuna who had offended him, not the other kings. So it's like your one finger is poisonous, but you cut all the fingers. So that's what Parsuram was doing. That's why there was a need for Lord Ram to come. He said, this guy is not only a surgeon, he's not a good surgeon. He's cutting all the limbs. So that is the distinction.
Babaji, but you know, one of the things that really astonished me is that we are speaking about a very high consciousness society and human beings. How they could accept like that, you know, that one pregnant woman like Sita was sent to the forest. I imagine a high conscious society will deal in another way with that situation. You know what I mean? It's like,
what is the other way? Can you tell me?
Because she was not guilty at all, and everybody knows that. So only this man was pointing that. So
Yeah, so how will the deal? Tell me, how will the deal?
When somebody say it's wrong, it's telling lies, so why you will pay attention? Anyway, I know this issue is, or even nowadays there are Ram devotees, even the Indian devotees of Ram, they say, I cannot forgive Ram by sending Sita to the forest.
Yeah, because
I'm
they are not devotee of Ram. If they are devotee of Ram, how can they say that they cannot forgive Ram?
No, but they say like this, like also without led to love Ram. But it's a conflict. It's going on even now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If a conflict is going on because they don't understand. I mean, they think that they are more wise than Ram, right? This is exactly what I said earlier when Vishwanath Chakravarti says that he ordered his brothers to go and conquer. So what did Vishwanath Chakravarti comment on that? He says, why is it said here like this?
But they speak because of affection toward Mother Sita. Like that they...
So then that is not a complaint. Then that is not a conflict. That is their home affair.
That's what I mean.
Well, then there's no need to ask that.
But this is the point also, if it's a high consciousness society, why to accept that kind of dealing, For me it's like...
So either you are not high class like them, or they are not high class. Yeah, so therefore the thing is that you have to either understand their mindset or you want them to be following your mindset. You have to decide that. That do you want to pull them down to your mindset or you want to elevate yourself to their mindset?
You are talking about when it's transcendental, real,
So what is the purpose of bhakti? What is the purpose of bhakti? Sasagunan samtetyatan brahma bhuyaya kalpate, right? Mam cha yoga vicharena bhakti yogena sevate. So by doing bhakti yoga, you transcend the gunas. So here it is described how people who are transcendental to gunas, how they behave. So either you say that, well, this is nonsense to transcend these gunas, they should also come down within the realm of gunas and behave like us. Right? That's what it means. Either we accept that these are transcendental people and they are teaching us how to transcend the gunas. But because we are not transcended gunas and we don't want to also understand how the gunas, those who have transcended, how they behave, then naturally it is our tendency that they should behave like us. Otherwise we have what is called difference anxiety. That they are different from us and this is intolerable to me. So they should behave the way I would like them to behave. So therefore there are only two possibilities. Either you change and become like them or you make them change and they become like you. So the second actually is not possible. So we have a choice whether take it or leave it.
Yeah, I can understand your point. From the side of bhakti, there is no question. But also it is said that Ram is the perfect man, is the perfect king,
Yes.
and the perfect society. So that is the example that it's given to society to treat the woman, that's why it's something that's...
Yeah, but you are not understanding that he is not treating women. You are only thinking only from woman.
No, it's Sita, I know it's Sita.
Yes, Sita. Sita is a woman and you are thinking that he is being very cruel to her. But you are not understanding who is this woman. Why don't you try to understand who is Sita? Why is that Sita did not complain? Tell me. You are complaining that he mistreated a woman and how can he be an ideal man. So why is that Sita did not complain and none of the women at that time complained? Tell me this. No, you tell me. If he was so cruel, right, so blatantly cruel that any common person can see, He doesn't need big intelligence to see how cruel he is. That wife is pregnant, she is innocent, she is a queen, she did not do any, irreligious activity, and she is thrown away into the forest. Who can be more cruel than this? Does it take any intelligence to understand this? No. But now, use intelligence. Why is that Sita or none of the women or none of the men complained against it? There must be some reason for that also, right? So either is that these people had no intelligence at all, not even that much intelligence which we have now, or it was Ram was a complete despot. Nobody dared to speak one word against him. Of course, that goes very thing against. Then why is that this washerman was speaking like this and he was acting on it in such a way? If he was a despot, he would have shot him on the spot because he heard it with his own ears. He could have killed him right there. So he was not a despot. So then why is this? So this, nobody deliberates that, because to deliberate that, the problem comes. What is the problem? Then I have to change. And that is problem. I don't want to change. I think I am perfect. My thinking is perfect. Ram is cruel. Sita was stupid. She was oppressed. She could not speak up. I have to stand up for Sita. So I must speak out now for that. This is what people are thinking. So now even this second last verse, which I just read, you have to understand, Tasmin sa Bhagavan Rama Snigdhaya Priyaya Ishtaya Sitaya Reme. That in that palace or in that city, that Bhagavan Ram, first of all, Ram is Bhagavan Ram. He enjoyed with Sita. Who is Sita? Snigdhaya Priyaya Ishtaya. There are three adjectives which have been given for her. She is affectionate, she is very dear, and she is Ishtaya, means she does everything which is desirable to Ram and vice versa. And what is this? Who is this Bhagavan Rama? What are his adjectives? Swarama, he is Atma Rama. Means he is so happy, so fulfilled in himself that he doesn't have to be cruel to Sita. He doesn't have to be something. So if such a person is taking an action, obviously we who are under the influence of the gunas of nature, we cannot understand his action simply with our own conditioned mind. Because he is a Swarama. And he is Dhiranam Rishabha. He is the best of those people who have control over their mind, body, intelligence, senses. So, if we believe in Shastra, obviously if you take that story that is coming from Shastra, then also you should consider these statements here. Not that these statements have no meaning, and only meaning is that Rama threw away Sita. So you should deliberate that why such a person has to do this and act. There must be something behind it, which I am unable to understand. And his act has to be something from which I can learn. Because it is also said, Martya avtarastu ihe marta shikshanam natu raksha vidhayeva vibho. That this appearance of Bhagavan Ram in this mortal world is to educate people of this world and not just to kill the Rakshasas. For killing Rakshasas, Parshuram was there. He had his Parshu. He already killed so many, he could have killed few more. He was quite good at it. So why Ram has to come? Because Parshuram was not able to do that what Ram did. Parshuram did not set any example like that. He just went around chopping these kings. So we also have to, yes.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. Please go ahead.
Yeah, you speak.
I was thinking that there are parallels. I mean, if Ram is to be accused of cruelty, then Krishna is also to be accused of cruelty because he left the gopis and he went off to Mathura. So why is that act not cruel? But then Ram's separation from Sita is cruel.
Because gopis were married, he did not throw them into the forest. It is, if he is cruel to gopis, he is also cruel to himself. As much as gopis loved him, he also loved them. So you think that he did not feel the pain as gopis felt pain for him?
So in the same way, Ram is being cruel to himself actually, because Sita is his own Swarup Shakti.
But Sita has to live in the forest. Gopis were still in their home. So it's not exactly same. Anyway, the point is that we should try to grasp the intention of these people, why they are doing it. We take them so cheaply and so lightly that he's just a husband, he's just a man who is being cruel to a woman. He doesn't have to take birth on earth to teach us that man can exploit women. And so many men are doing that. No man would dare to do that now, what he did so long ago. Nobody else did like that. So we have to consider that fact. So that's why I am saying that these stories, we have to study them with proper mindset. Finding fault, you can find fault with anybody. Like Tanmay said that Krishna is also cruel. You can find fault with anybody. Ram was also cruel. He killed his father. Isn't it? His father died because of him. He is very cruel. He is cruel from beginning to end. He is cruel to his mom. He is cruel to his wife. He is cruel to his brothers. He is cruel to all the citizens. Everybody was crying. Everybody was crying except for Ram. Seems like guy was sadist. Yeah, from modern psychology you can analyze in so many ways. He must be a big sadist fellow. He took so much pleasure in seeing everyone crying. Can you imagine his mother, how much she cried, how much his brothers cried, his father died, citizens were crying, even animals, and he did not care. Then we say that he is very soft-hearted and compassionate. So you can analyze in so many ways. If you want to analyze psychologically, you can prove him to be a sadist. So you can do so many things, but that is not the purpose of Shastra. Shastra has an intention to teach us something. So if you don't have that intention, then so many analysis can be done. There is no limit. All the stories, they are food for thought, as they say.
Could it be said to generalize this whole Leela and the instruction that comes from it? that throughout the Ramayana, both Ram, Sita, Lakshman and others demonstrate that ultimately to follow the Dharma, you'll be tested to the extreme and have to give up even what's most extremely dear to you. And that Ram knew that Sita was fully capable of doing that. So when this circumstance came, trusting and knowing the depth to which she was ready to sacrifice as well as he was, he considered this the ultimate teaching to the people. And it's not that he was cruel or insensitive to her, but rather he knew that both she and him were ready to tolerate even this greatest sadness or difficulty to set the ultimate example of what it is to adhere to the Dharma for the greater good of society.
Yeah, so this is the whole thing, the sacrifice is, I mean, if you see Lord Chaitanya's life, was he not cruel to women? Was he not? He was young, he had a nice wife who was so devoted to him, and he left her. Was Buddha not cruel? He was also young, he has a wife, he has a child, and at night said bye-bye. After he became enlightened or whatever you call it, he once returned back to his kingdom and he met his wife. Everybody was worshipping and praying. His wife met him and said, I have only one question to you. He said, why did you leave me? Was it not possible to attain enlightenment living here? Buddha had no answer. He was speechless. Who was always having an answer. This lady made him speechless. So you can analyze all these people that they are very cruel. Right? So why Buddha is not cruel? Why Mahaprabhu is not cruel? At least Buddha's wife asked him. Mahaprabhu's wife never asked him that. Right? Every year people were going from Bengal to meet him in Jagannath Puri. Did he ever send a question? He should have also gone. Why he didn't go? Why is that she never went? There were other ladies who were going, right? Or
Babaji?
क्या?
Babaji, Haribol, it's Ladili. Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, what I understand from Lord Rama and Sita Devi's relationship is this oneness of heart.
Yes.
So, so for us, how can we improve ourselves, of what can we do to have a taste or to have a glimpse or to try to develop this oneness of heart and to cultivate it in our relationship?
So we have to learn how to sacrifice, which is we are never taught, and therefore it is very difficult for us to do that, and that's why we find difficulty in understanding these stories. Because these stories are saying how they are able to sacrifice their own pleasure, their own goal, their own life for something higher. Don't think that Mahaprabhu or Buddha or Lord Ramachandra, they did not love their wives. This is a misunderstanding to think like that. But they had something higher to give to us. Imagine how many people Mahaprabhu benefited. Otherwise he would have been just with his wife, that's fine. But then you will not remember, they will not even know him. Now you can criticize him for that. I'm actually surprised why nobody criticizes him. Yeah, and why everybody is criticizing Ramachandra, why not Mahaprabhu? Is he not so equally extreme? Except that here in this case he himself goes away, or Buddha, but they are causing trouble. There is nobody at home. He didn't have a father or brother to take care. There is no son. And these two ladies, mother and wife, they are just left to themselves. And they are brahmanas, so that means they didn't have any money-making business. They have to just live by begging. So he left them to beg. At least Sita doesn't have to beg. She went and lived in an ashram, which she was used to anyway. And she was taken care nicely by Valmiki. But here there is no one to take care of them. In case of Buddha also, at least he was a prince, so no problem, at least materially there was no problem to his wife. Wife's name was Vasundhara, I think.
And Sridhar Swami was more cruel, he left the baby. Sridhar Swami was more cruel, he left the baby.
Yes, so these are all cruel guys. So we have to sometimes sacrifice for higher purpose. And that is one of the messages you can learn from this. And that sacrifice is not going to put us into trouble. Actually, after some time you will reap the benefit of that. And not only you, many others will get benefited from that. So that is something which at present we are not taught. We are very much self-centered. So these stories are there to shift your center from self to other, so that you can see with a little bigger vision. Otherwise you are closed in your own cocoon, and then you try to see everything with that. So this actually expands your vision when you get out of it. There is a bigger reality which becomes available. But it is hard because we are so much conditioned to think only for me. Thinking of me only means thinking of this body which you are going to give up anyway one day, which is not yours. It's something like you rent a bike and then you have to give it back. So this body is like that. It's on a rent. But then we become so much attached to it. So to rise above that, then there's a different reality which is available, which is very beautiful and very calming and bringing peace and happiness, which everybody is looking for. So this is the problem at modern society, and I don't mean to criticize, because sometimes people think we are fanatic in this and that. The modern society has given up dharma, and without dharma you cannot mature into a human being. You remain just like a kid. And this is what at least I see grown up people in their 60s, 70s, how are they behaving? Just like child. If you actually analyze their behavior, sit down, they are just like children, nothing more than that. That maturity cannot come without dharma. So when dharma is there, then you mature and then you see things in a different way. But now if majority of the people are like that, then you cannot talk about it. Then you get attacked if you say something like this. So I take my words back. Yes.
You mentioned that the people during Ram time were transcendental, they were not material. And you also mentioned, or we know that we are bound by the gunas just by virtue of being on earth. So how are we expected to overcome? How are we expected to act the same way these people, all the people, Mahaprabhu, everybody is acting if we are not of the same nature?
So this is what we have to learn. That is the path of bhakti. We are not like them, we cannot act exactly like them, but we first understand and then we perform practice so that we can get out of the gunas. That is what they are coming to teach. They don't have any problem. Ram has no problem, Sita has no problem, and this washerman also had no problem. That is a play on the stage to teach us, so that we can learn from that. So that is the meaning of doing sadhana. That is the meaning of bhakti marg. That's what it means. Okay, we'll stop.